You're listening to Media History Podcast,
where stories echo beyond the headlines.
A few minutes before his first radio broadcast, Lawrence Zeiger was told that his last name wouldn't work.
Too hard, too ethnic, said the station owner.
The boss glanced at a newspaper lying nearby.
An ad for a liquor wholesaler caught his eye. King's Wholesale Liquor.
We will tell you the story of Larry King, the man who made a career out of asking why,
despite his father's warning to never talk to strangers. My name is Małgorzata Dwornik.
And I am Bartłomiej Dwornik.
We are from the Reporterzy.info online magazine.
If this one speaks to you, leave a like, a comment, or share it.
Your voice helps others hear it too.
On May 1st, 1957, he sat in front of the WAHR station microphone for the first time. The red light turned on, and nothing. For a few seconds, he couldn't say a word. The boss shouted from behind the glass, "This is radio. You have to talk." Finally, Larry stammered, "This is my first day. My name is Larry King. I'm nervous." That's how his 64-year relationship with the microphone began.
At the beginning, he got a morning music slot. No interviews, no commentary, just songs, ads, and sometimes news. But listeners liked him. He didn't sound like the others. He spoke naturally. Sometimes he stuttered or lost his train of thought. He sounded like a person, not like a broadcaster.
Larry was born on November 19, 1933, in Brooklyn, in a family of Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe. His parents, Jenny and Aaron, spoke Yiddish and English. His father ran a food bar, then worked in munitions factories. When he suddenly died of a heart attack in 1942, Larry was 9. He was at school. They took him home. Even then, he knew nothing would ever be the same.
After his father's death, his mother was left alone with 2 children. The family had to move and rely on welfare. Larry withdrew into himself. He lost interest in school and religion. "I stopped talking to God," he would say years later. But he started listening more and more. Radio became his world.
Instead of dreaming of a career as an actor or athlete, Larry wanted to be the voice that spoke to people from the speaker. He was fascinated by the calmness and rhythm of well-known presenters. He practiced alone, in front of a mirror, using a pen as a microphone. No one taught him. He learned by listening.
After high school, he didn't go to college. He had to help his mother. He worked as a mailman and delivery man. But he looked for chances to get into radio. When he got a job at the post office, he purposely picked routes near the WOR station. He went there every day, chatted with the technicians, asked how to read the news. No one took him seriously, but he didn't get discouraged.
In 1955, he decided to move south. Nothing was moving forward in New York, so he went to Miami. He was 21 years old and had no experience. He knocked on doors. Eventually, WAHR station from Miami Beach gave him a job. Not as a presenter, but as an assistant. He had to clean and serve coffee.
But on May 1st, 1957, luck smiled on him. The presenter didn't show up to work. The boss looked at Larry and said, "You're going on." It was supposed to be just a test, but King never left the microphone.
In 1958, Larry was already hosting his first original live show from the Pumpernicks restaurant in Miami Beach. He sat at a table and invited random guests. His first guest was a waiter. After 2 days, singer Bobby Darin came by. He had heard the show and asked to talk.
The formula was simple: microphone, guest, question. King had no script. He didn't read from notes. He asked what came to mind. He listened and didn't interrupt. He wasn't afraid of silence. Because of that, guests said more.
One of the slip-ups he remembered with amusement happened during a talk with a priest. He blurted out, "How many children do you have?" The guest was offended. Larry apologized but didn't try to explain. He learned on the fly, and listeners appreciated that.
Larry King never took notes. He didn't prepare questions in advance. He believed that a good conversation happens here and now, not in the host's head. When in 1978 he launched his own show on the National Mutual Broadcasting System, the format stayed the same. The shows aired live every night for 5 hours. A guest in the studio, listeners calling from all over the country, an open line, no editing.
His strength was calm. He didn't race time. He didn't fill silence with words. He asked, listened, let others answer. Sometimes he added a short, "I understand," or "why," but he never spoke for the guest, and he didn't try to sound smarter. That worked. In a world of loud hosts, he was quiet, and that's why he was effective.
There were mistakes. A moment of inattention, lack of preparation, but also proof that King didn't create distance. He spoke to people, not to their titles. After the blunder, he apologized, joked, didn't dramatize. For listeners, it wasn't a slip-up. It was the truth. And truth doesn't need an excuse.
King said, "You don't need to be an expert to ask good questions. You need to be present." His interviews had no thesis. He had no agenda. For some, he was too soft. For others, too simple. But guests came back, and they said things they didn't say anywhere else.
Despite growing fame, King didn't abandon his daily work rhythm. In the 60s and 70s, he hosted various shows. Not just interviews, also sports, news, and columns. He wasn't afraid of format. He tried everything. Sometimes in one day he hosted 3 different shows: morning news, afternoon sports, evening talk show. Tiredness wasn't an excuse. Radio was his natural environment.
In 1960, he debuted on television. The show was local, late night, broadcast from Miami. Topic of the first episode: should China be admitted to the UN? King sat on a spinning chair, smoked a cigarette, and tried to keep contact with the guests. He wasn't thrilled with the result. He recalled the performance with irony. But viewers remembered him, not for style, but for honesty.
He wasn't a typical host. He didn't have a commercial voice or poster looks. He didn't hide that. Sometimes he spoke unclearly, sometimes he lost his line of thought, but it worked, because his microphone didn't scream ego. It carried curiosity, and that was rare in media. That's why he stood out.
In later years, he joined many projects. Also as a writer, he wrote columns, worked with newspapers, hosted field shows. He was always on the move. He didn't need a label. A microphone and someone who wanted to talk were enough. Format was just a bonus.
In 1971, King made front pages, not as a journalist, but as a defendant. He was accused of involvement in embezzlement. The case concerned his relationship with a former financial partner. Though no formal charges were filed, his reputation in Miami suffered badly. He lost his TV and radio jobs. No one wanted to hire him. He disappeared from the air for a few years.
It was a painful time for him. He lived off odd jobs, wrote for local papers, tried to stay in media. But he didn't give up. He said he had made a mistake, got involved in shady business, but he never meant to cheat anyone. Some saw him as burned out, but radio didn't forget.
In 1978, the Mutual Broadcasting System offered him a live night show. King was 45. He returned to the studio without fanfare, without announcements. He sat at the microphone again, and again he started to talk, in the same tone as always.
That was his comeback. The show was a hit. Listeners called from across the US. King talked with doctors, writers, presidents, but also with people who just wanted to say something. He didn't change his style. He still asked short questions, still didn't interrupt, and still didn't pretend to know everything.
In the early 1980s, Larry King was already a well-known radio personality nationwide. But he wasn't yet that Larry King, not the symbol of conversation America would later recognize. He worked every day, sometimes 12 hours a day. In addition to his live show, he wrote columns, hosted live events, and appeared as a guest on other programs. He didn't look for an easy path.
His recognition kept growing. He was increasingly asked to interview politicians, experts, and cultural figures. But he didn't change his approach. He still didn't take notes. He still sat down with a blank sheet. He believed the most interesting questions came during the conversation, not before it.
Not everyone liked that. Critics accused him of being unprepared. But listeners were on his side, because Larry King's conversations weren't academic. They were real, and that was enough to build trust.
In 1985, his style made its way to CNN television. But before that happened, Larry had spent nearly 30 years building his brand, slowly, consistently, without noise, starting with an empty studio and a microphone, just the way he liked it best.
The year 1985 was a breakthrough moment for Larry King. CNN, a nationwide 24-hour news channel, invited him to host his own program. Larry King Live was meant to be a talk show without a set, without complex editing, without distractions. One host, one guest, 1 hour, airing daily at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
He sat in front of the camera in a white shirt with his signature suspenders, a 1950s-style microphone, and a logo mug. In front of him were politicians, writers, actors, athletes, activists, celebrities, scientists. No matter who sat across from him, King's style didn't change. He asked short questions. He didn't interrupt. He didn't moralize.
The first guest was New York Governor Mario Cuomo. Then came Ronald Reagan, Frank Sinatra, Elizabeth Taylor, Al Gore, but also lesser-known people. Authors, victims' families, regular citizens with important things to say. King welcomed anyone who had something to share. His studio was open to all.
The show quickly became hugely popular. At its peak, it drew over 1 million viewers a day. King didn't raise his voice. He didn't perform as a host. He just sat and asked, "How do you feel about that? Why do you think so? What would you say today?" In an era of increasingly loud media, that was something new.
He didn't do a show. He didn't try to shine. Guests said more than they planned because they felt safe. With King, they didn't have to defend themselves. They had space to tell their side. Not everyone understood that. Critics said he lacked depth. But for viewers, that was the value. The silence that let people speak.
Many guests recalled that their talk with King was the first time they felt truly heard. They weren't afraid to make mistakes, because they knew no one would interrupt or use it against them. King wasn't a judge. He was a host. He gave room and time, and in television, that was rare.
He didn't avoid hard topics. He talked about illness, death, violence, war, but he never started with the sensational, always with the person. Because of that, people who usually stayed silent agreed to talk to him. They knew they wouldn't be harmed.
Over time, King's interviews became sources of quotes, analysis, and emotion. Sometimes one of his questions changed the direction of public debate, but he never claimed that role. He said, "I just ask questions." And that was enough for America to listen.
After the attack on the World Trade Center, the Oklahoma City bombing, the shuttle disaster, King was the one who welcomed first witnesses, officials, family spokespeople. His studio became a place of community. The questions were simple, but the voices that spoke had huge meaning.
During international crises, King could connect with leaders and experts around the world. In one episode, he spoke with Yasser Arafat. In another, with Lech Wałęsa. He didn't make a spectacle of it. He simply connected and asked, "How do you see it?"
Thanks to this format, his show was often the first place for major announcements. When someone wanted to reach a mass audience with a message, they chose King. They knew they would be heard, and not embarrassed.
The show also tackled social issues, the HIV crisis, capital punishment, healthcare, education, homelessness. Guests included both experts and those directly affected. King didn't divide them. Everyone had the same place at the mic.
During the 25 years the show ran, 1985-2010, Larry King conducted over 30,000 interviews. And he never changed his style. He didn't start speaking faster. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't use trendy phrases. When asked why he didn't prepare notes, he replied, "Because I want to listen, not plan."
He often didn't know the topic ahead of time. He walked into the studio with a blank page, and it wasn't an act. He just knew that good conversation comes from presence, not a schedule. Because of that, his questions were real, not mechanical.
In 2010, King ended his CNN program. His last guest was Bill Clinton. He thanked the viewers, the team, his wife, and children. But he didn't talk about an end. He knew that conversation didn't need a station. It needed a question. And he still had one to offer.
After leaving CNN, he didn't retire. He moved online. He hosted podcasts, streamed interviews, and wrote columns. No matter the format, he still listened, and he could still ask in a way that made guests forget they were on camera.
After ending Larry King Live in December 2010, he was 77. But he didn't plan retirement. In 2012, Larry co-founded Ora TV, a digital broadcasting network focused on conversation-driven programming. It became his new home after CNN, a place where his signature interview style could live on, online. He didn't change his tone. He didn't speed up. He still sat across from the guest and asked, "What do you think about that?"
He appeared in podcasts, hosted shows on internet channels, and showed up on social media. He saw his presence in the new space as the next stage, not as a comeback attempt. He knew the way he talked worked no matter the medium, and he was right.
He interviewed people from many walks of life, young creators, experts, new generation politicians. He didn't try to be trendy. He asked just like he did in the 70s or 90s. The guests changed. He remained himself.
He didn't seek validation. He knew what he could do. He also knew conversation still mattered, as long as someone truly listened. And that's why he still had an audience. Even if they had no idea who he once was, they wanted to hear him today.
In 2019, he had a heart attack, not the first in his life. He had heart problems since the 1980s. He had major open heart surgery back then and had been under medical care ever since. But this time, his body reacted more slowly. After leaving the hospital, he admitted he had to slow down, but he didn't quit working.
In 2020, his health declined again. In January 2021, at age 87, he was hospitalized due to COVID-19 infection. His condition was serious. Doctors said he was fighting with full effort. He spent several days in a Los Angeles hospital. His family was with him.
On January 23, 2021, Larry King died. His death was officially announced by his foundation. The world lost a voice that had spoken to America for decades and didn't argue with it, just listened. Media published a short note. Larry King has died. He was 87. But behind that sentence were thousands of hours of conversation.
After his passing, he was remembered by journalists, politicians, actors, and regular listeners. People didn't speak of him as a celebrity. They said, he was a man who knew how to listen. And that was the most accurate description of his work.
Larry King never conducted an interview the same way twice. He had a method, but no template. He spoke differently with each guest. He wasn't more polite with a president than with a poet. He wasn't less focused with a movie star than with a grieving parent. He gave everyone his time and the same attention.
He didn't build his name on controversy. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He didn't use drama. He wasn't interesting because he was flashy. He was interesting because he was present. That's why his interviews haven't aged. They still sound relevant. They still bring emotions and information.
Many became historic. Talks with Mandela, Gorbachev, Michael Jordan, Liza Minnelli, Stephen Hawking. But just as important were those with people no one but King would have invited to the studio. Because it wasn't about the name, it was about whether the person had something to say.
He didn't leave behind a single thesis. He had no need to sum up the world in one sentence, but he left behind a style, a way of being in a conversation, a way of listening, and that's something that can't be faked or automated.
Throughout his career, Larry King conducted around 50,000 interviews. No other journalist has done more in that format. Without a script, live, with every type of guest, from regular people to presidents, from scientists to children. Everyone mattered.
He never tried to be an expert, but he became a master of conversation, not as a speaker, as a listener. That was his greatest strength, and that's why his voice will be remembered not as a shout, but as a calm, thoughtful question. Why? After his death, CNN showed one last screen. Larry King live. Then silence, and in that silence you could truly hear how much his question was missed.
In interviews, he often joked that he hoped his father would forgive him for speaking with so many strangers despite his warnings. In his autobiography, My Remarkable Journey, King wrote the famous sentence that still stands as the best advice for a great interview.
Nothing I say today will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening. I never learned anything while I was talking. Thank you for listening to our podcast.
And for sharing this journey through the life of a man who knew how to listen like no one else.
If you enjoyed it, give our podcast a thumbs up.
Visit our channel for more videos in a variety of formats.
And subscribe us so we can let you know when the next episode is out. Goodbye and see you soon.
Goodbye and see you soon.